how to lining your 6 pieces with a full lining. I just finished ironing the lining everywhere. I just iron it now. You see how smooth the lining is. So I will start with the center front now first. You fold your lining like this, the same way we folded the fabric. Then you pick the center front to check the down part. Make sure it's equal like this with the fabric. Then you can now lift this down part up. I see from the fabric like this. You lift it up like this. Because when sewing it, this is how you lift the down up. So you have to lift it up so that you do not waste so much lining. So you lift it up like this. You place it like so. Are you seeing? Let me show you how it is. You place it like so. For beginners, just cut the Ankara and the lining equal so that you will not have any issues. Later, you can trim it at the upper part. I'll go ahead and cut it now like this. So this the upper part, please don't cut exactly, just leave a half inch. Don't cut exactly, just leave half inch of the lining. But this one now, I've already cut exactly like this with my listing. It will still be okay, but it's better for you to have extra. It's better for you to have extra at the upper part than for the lining not to be equal. So just leave half inch at the upper part. Later you can trim it out. The center front, when I was cutting the center front, the down part was facing my right hand. The down part of the skirt was facing this way. Now, after cutting that one, this side that I just cut now, the same way I lift up the down part, I also lift up this one, down part. But the down part of this one is now facing my left hand now because of the lining. If you have not watched the video of this 6 pieces skirt, please watch it. It's on my channel so that you understand very well what I'm talking about. If you cut it this way, you save more fabric, you save more lining. So when cutting, this is the this is the 2 pieces now of the lining. Are you seeing? The 2 pieces that will face the back, both the right and the left. This is the 2 pieces because the dart is not the same. So I'm cutting these 2 different. I'll still cut the other 2 different for the front. So when cutting the front now, the down part will now face this right because I have more lining left this way. So the down part, which is the flare, will face this way. If you cut your 6 pieces skirt this way, you save more lining. If you cut your lining this way, you save more lining. So I will cut the same thing to that one before move to the back now. So I just finished cutting the side now. This is what I have left out of the 3 yards of lining. So how to get the back now? Since the lining is by 60, I have some lining remaining at this ending part. I will just fold it like this. I'll use this side to cut the back side. If you are using it for a skirt and blouse, you need to make it 4 yards of lining. Depends the sleeve, you can make it 4.5. So I just finished cutting the back now. You see the lining for the back. So what I will do, I will go ahead, I will go to the machine now and join all of these pieces. I will join the lining, the center, front, and the back, and show you what next to do. 6 pieces now. This is the front of the skirt. See how the joining is. I joined it with a half inch. You can use a 3/4 of an inch, but don't use up to 1 inch. Even though we added allowance up to 2.5, we added allowance up to 2.5. So this is the front of it. The same thing I apply to the lining. See how it is. I have also joined the lining, the 3 pieces together. Now there is something I always do. Whenever I finish joining it like this, I will hold the lining like this to place it like this center front to check. You see the joining? The both joining are equal. Now, if this joining is not equal, maybe the lining is smaller because of the flare, the method which I folded the down part. I lifted the down part up before I cut the lining. If the joining is not equal, what you can do, you can expand the lining, the allowance. And see another thing here, the allowance that I use for the lining at the down part is very small. It's smaller than the allowance that I use on the fabric, so that my lining can size this fabric very well. You see the joining to joining, the center front is okay. So the same thing I did at the back, the same thing also the back. This is the joining, and I make sure I checked the lining also. I make sure I check the lining also, that the center front is okay before I will start sewing the skirt. Now, if you find out that the fabric is too wide, you can adjust a little from the joining of the 6 pieces. Because when you encounter challenge, you need to find solution. At this point, you can't be going back again, so you have to complete the work. You can pinch a little from this joining and connect it to this line to make sure that the lining size the fabric very well. There is something again I need to show you. You see on the fabric, the Ankara fabric, I open the allowance like this and iron it. But on a lining, you can decide to leave it like this, but make sure you align the allowance one side, just one side like this, and iron it all through. If the allowance is facing this way, let it face that way all through. If it's facing this way, let it face that way all through. Don't push some this way and now push some this way. Are you seeing what I'm showing you? Allow it to face this way and just iron it like this, and iron the front also. Then your lining will be smooth, instead of you to open it the same way just to make the work faster. You can do that. So let me show you the next thing now. So now I just arrange the skirt now, both the back and this is the front, this is the 2 pieces of the back. So I arrange it here. I see now the same thing to the lining. I arrange it together. Now we remember that if you watch the video, if you watch the cutting of this skirt, you will understand that I slant the side of the skirt. So that is what I'm trying to do on this now. So I just finished arranging both the lining and the fabric together. Now, this is the pattern. If you have watched the video, you understand what I'm saying. And you know it's by the side piece. Are you seeing now? So this is the side that I slant. Let me turn it this way so that it will face the skirt. So this is the side. Are you seeing the hip shape now? I will place it like so and slant it on the fabric. I didn't slant it on my fabric. I only slant it on the pattern because I wanted to join the 6 pieces first and see what I have before I can now slant it. So see what I have now. So now the next place to work on again, let me keep the lining aside and bring the center skirt, which is the front, like this. So the waist of the skirt, I also slant it on that when I was cutting it, but I didn't slant it on the fabric. It's now that I want to slant it 1.5 inches. So you see, you stop before the sewing allowance. Make sure you hold the fabric, all of them are equal on the waist. Only the front I'm cutting, please check. So only the front you're to cut. You slant the waist because it's a low waist skirt. There will be no bind. That is why I'm slanting the waist. The waist is low, so you see our lower abdomen, the shape of this waist. That is why this slant is here. But if it's a skirt that has a band that you place on the tummy, high waist, I don't slant it. So now the next thing to do again, I will now separate it, open the skirt and gum it. So this is Esther. You can just hold it and measure like 6 inches or 5 inches. You can choose to use 6 inches or 5 inches. Let me use 6 inches now. It's tearable. You can just use your scissors like this and tear it. I like to buy this one that I can tear when I'm making a skirt like this. So this Esther has front and back. The back is the shining part that has a gum on it. So you just place your Esther like so and use your iron to gum it all through. Gum the skirt like this, the down. Then the same thing to the back. I will also tear another one. I will also tear another 6 inches to the back. So you gum your hairstyle like this. You keep gumming it. Now when you get to this part, this joining part, you will see the hairstyle will rumple like so. There is no problem. Allow it to rumple. You can, because of the flare, you see the hairstyle rumple like this. There is no problem. It's inside. It's still okay. So you keep gumming. So you keep gumming it like this. You gum it all through. Now when you finish gumming the back, so you turn it to the front and you iron it also to smooth it. Make it clip to the Ankara fabric. This is what will help you make your skirt to balance very well with the lining. I apply the same thing to the two back. You see, I apply the same thing to the two back. I gum it with the hairstyle, the same size of hairstyle. I also iron the front. So I will go to the machine now to join the lining to the skirt. So how to join the lining now? This is the lining center front, and this is the skirt center front. This is the good side. This is the lining good side. You place the good side to face the good side like this. Make sure the joining are equal. And you just place it like this. And start by the side. You see this remaining allowance here? It's still okay. Sometimes like half inch, sometimes like half inch, 3/4 is okay. It will balance when we lift up the down part. But if it's too much, then you have to find way to join the lining a little. Because of the flare, you will always get this look. Okay, so I finished with the front now, joining the lining. I will also apply the same thing to the back, the two back side. So this is the back now. This is the zipper allowance line. So, and the good side is on top. You pick your lining and let the good side face each other. Also the zipper line to face each other. Then you place this line like this. Make sure you check. If there is any extra fabric, allow it to come out by the side. Let this joining side be equal. Let it be equal, like so. So I will start from this side now. You can use a pin to secure it. Before sewing, for beginners, you can use a pin to secure it. So I finished joining all. Now I will go to the table and iron it. So now to iron the down part now. I'll lift it up like this. When we are cutting it, this is how I folded the down part, and I added 3 inches allowance to it for hemming, for turning the lining. I said if the person is not too tall, you can add 3.5. So my 3 inches now, for me to sew here, 1/2 inch is gone already. So I have 2.5 inches left. 2.5 inches, I will make this place to be 1.5 plus this half, that will be 2 inches. Then remaining 1 inch, I'll use it to turn the upper part, to turn the waist upper part. But if it's 3.5, you can also lift this place up to 2 inches. It's okay. So let me iron it now. So I always use my tape to check the 1.5 inches. I always use my tape to check. I'll keep checking to make sure the whole line are equal. This is how I will keep checking the 1.5 inches. Now we see the hairstyle, the 6 inches hairstyle. This part now has hairstyle, this part has hairstyle. When you finish iron it, they will click to each other and it will make your skirt to balance very well. This is the secret to my full lining 6 pieces. Now you check, this is the joining part. Because of the flare, it's folded this way, so the down part is the bigger size of it. So you will get this look here. You always see this look. But because of the hairstyle, you don't have any problem. You can fold it this way to iron it. Or when I finish sewing, I can use hemming gum to put under here to make it slip. When I finish turning the skirt, or you tack it, it's okay. Each of this line, you will always see this look here. So when you finish ironing the back, this is what you get. You see the joining, you see the look here. You turn it to the front side and also iron it for it to click to each other like this, the hairstyle. You know, there's something I want to show you now before I'll forget. When I was cutting the lining of this skirt, I folded the down part a little. If you can remember, I folded the down part inside. That is the lining. That is the lining was shorter than the fabric. Now, I find out that I overfolded it. The length is not enough. So the length is not enough for me. So I had to join my lining here. Now, if you don't want to have this issue, please, I will advise you to cut the lining equal with the fabric when you're cutting it. After turning it, you can trim the excess out so that you will not have any problem. Or if you must fold it that way, fold it only 1 inch. I'm just being real to you. This is practical, not theory. So I'm being real to you. So that is that. The next place I will also do again is the back. The same way that I ironed the front, I will also iron the back, 1.5 inches also. So I just finished with the back now. You can turn it to the front and also iron it properly, like so. I will apply the same thing to the other back. So the next thing to do now, I'll go to the floor to trim the excess out. So this is one of the back now. You have to arrange it like this on the floor. It's always better if you keep it on the floor so that you arrange it properly. Now we see how the down part is. If I have cut it equal, this lace wouldn't have been a problem now. But it's okay, the skirt is a full skirt. I can trim that, I can trim small of it out. And one of the reasons why I joined this upper part also, because I will remain ½ inch at this upper part. So you see how this thing, make sure you stretch your skirt very well. Don't allow it to rumple. Iron your lining and your skirt. So when cutting it, just leave ½ inch at this upper part. Then I will trim this excess here. Make sure you balance it. Then this down part, I will just trim it a little. So it's okay now. The same thing this side. This side is not much. So I will apply the same thing to the other back and also the front. So this is the front now. You know the front is bigger than the back. The back is 2 pieces, while the front is together, so it's bigger than the back. So you have to be very, very careful. Arrange it very well. You have to push all the excess fabric to the upper part so that it will balance very well, like so. Now the inside, now the downside, even if you keep it like this, it's still okay. After arranging it, you can leave it like this, it's still okay. Now when cutting this upper part, also remain the ½ inch. You know the waist was slanted, the front. Before cutting the lining out, when you spread the lining out, when you spread the lining on the floor like this, you can also cross-check. You can also check the length of your skirt. You know the length is 42, which will add the distance. What I have here is okay. The 3/4 is still here. This is 3/4 of an inch. I was expecting 1 inch, but because of the, if I lift it up, I have it up to the 1 inch. Yes. Are you seeing? I have it up to the 1 inch. So you check from the back. Don't check from the front, because if you check from this center, you will not get it, because the waist is already slanted. So use the back side to check the length of your skirt, if it's okay, before you cut the remaining lining out, or before you even iron the down part. Make sure you check it. So I'll go to the machine now and sew it. So I want to turn the zipper allowance now. So this is the skirt now. I will hold it like this. This is the line which I ironed that was lifted up. So I will just hold it like this. Are you seeing now? From that line now. This is the zipper allowance. I will sew it. I want to turn it. Now when I get to this point now, I can just pinch a little of this lining, just split it a little like this. This is my secret to my skirt. For the lining, for a 6-piece skirt, lining to balance very well. This is how I do it. The half inch that I added at the upper part or 3/4, this is the purpose of that half inch, is to help this lining to balance inside the skirt. Now I'm going to notch this area. As I'm cutting my thread, I will just notch it together like this, so that when I iron that place, when I push it out, it will come out very well. So I just finished sewing the side, sewing the zipper allowance. I'll turn it inside like this. Use my scissors to push this part out. So the same method, I will apply the same method to the other back. That is the second back. I have a different method of sewing 6 pieces. If I want to turn all this skirt now, I will also turn the side and also turn the front and bring it out from the waist. But that is how will I put it? This way that I want to sew this skirt now is a professional way. I upgrade from the other semi-grade to this way. In another sewing of 6 pieces, I'll bring another video of sewing 6 pieces. I will show you another method how you can sew 6 pieces, the semi-grade. But the other cut and neck grade is what I will never show you on this channel, because it's not something to go back to it. But these 2 methods I will show you, even the waist, how you can turn the waist in another way. So I will go to the table now and iron the back. So I want to iron the zipper line now. You see the half inch that I pleat? You iron it in front also. Now I will go to the machine and fix a zip on this. Now you place the 2 back like this. Let the front face each other. Start from the down part to make sure to measure it equal. You can sew from down, you can choose to sew from up, but make sure you can also use pin to secure it. This is my zipper allowance that I notch. So how to fix skirt zip now? The zipper allowance, after turning this part now, is remaining 1 inch. You know, we added 1.5 inch. So I will measure from the waist 7.5 inches. If you check the zip from this part, you have 7.5. You can even use up to 8 inches, depends where you're starting the zipper from. You can use 8 inches or 7.75. Let me use 7.75 of an inch, like so. So I will measure from here 1 inch like this. I see. From that 1 inch, I will sew it down. So you can now pick your skirt this thing like this. We have different method of fixing zip, but on this one I will be using this method where the allowance will lap the zip like this. You see the zip teeth, you see the zip hook at the upper part. Just lift your skirt up to 1/2 inch, so that when you turn the waist, it will stop at the hook So you balance this upper part to lap on the zip like this. You can also iron this part before sewing it. So when you get to this point, you turn it like this. The same 1 inch allowance, you fold this upper part and check here like this. Make sure it's equal. Then you cross your sewing like this on top of this one and turn it this way. So this first one lap on the zip, but this one will not lap. You just place it here on the zip teeth by the side like that, and make sure this upper part are equal like this. So you can now go to the table and iron your zip with this allowance. You see, if you leave it like this, when the person is walking, you'll be seeing this allowance. So what you can do is to flip it this way and flip it this way. Are you seeing? This is how you get a neat sewing. Whenever you sew skirt by the side, the zipper allowance, you can flip it inside like this. So you see the work now. I'll go to the table and iron this zip. So I just finished ironing the zipper allowance now. So see what I have. This is the zip now. This is the front. I want to close the skirt now with the measurement. Okay, so time to close the skirt now. This is the back and this is the front on top. So from the waist, to get my hip length, I will mark 9 inches. I'm marking it on top of the fabric. I'll raise the lining up. So now that I've marked this side, I will turn to this side again. Just flip it over like this and also mark the same 9 inches as the hip length. So the waist circumference. The waist is 35 inches. 35 inches divided by 2. That will give me 17.5 inches. The waist is now into 2, front and back. So this is 17.5 inches. I will measure the remaining allowance. I have a 3 1/4. Yeah, 3 1/4 divided by 2. So I will just divide it into 2 and go ahead and mark the remaining one this side. Then the next place I will measure is the hip circumference. The hip circumference is 46. 46 divided by 2. That will give me 23.5 inches. 23.5 inches. I will check the remaining allowance. What I have here is 4 inches. 4 inches divided by 2. That will give me 2 inches. I will go ahead and mark this side also 2 inches. Then the knee. I can just follow the shape and close my skirt down with my eyes, or I can choose to measure the knee. To get the knee circumference, I can place my tape from the upper part and check the knee length. Is 20 inches. The knee length. You know, skirt knee will always create a new knee. The person's knee is 22 inches, but when I was cutting this skirt, I used 20 inches. So you create a new knee so that the person can walk freely. So that 20 inches, I will still mark it this other side like so. If you're looking at this skirt, you see that the front is bigger than the back a little. because of the butt shape that we give at the back, so the back is smaller a little. That is why you're seeing this excess. Don't bother, just place your tape like this to get the knee circumference. The knee circumference is we'll remove 2 inches from it on fold. So if you check, that will give us a 38. That is 19 inches. So I'll go ahead and measure the remaining allowance and just divide it into 2. Mark 1 this way and mark 1 this way. Now I'll still go ahead on the lining and mark all of this same thing that I apply here. I will also apply it on the lining before I will go to the machine and begin to sew it. So I want to close the skirt now from the measurements. Now if you're a beginner, what you can do to get the line, you can use a chalk to just connect your hand and be checking from the waist to your hip, and also connect it from your hip to get a good shape to your knee and till the down. But without connecting it, I can sew it like that. This is what I call lining to lining. You hold the skirt, hold the Ankara fabric first and leave the lining, and just close it through the measurement like this. Now when you're taking the measurement, make sure you measure in front. That is how you can get, because the back will, because of the hip shape at the back will just be smaller. The back will not be equal with the front. So follow the front and take a perfect measurement. Make sure you check the lining and the distance, the Ankara, the joining to be equal. This down part, you can reduce the allowance a little because it's flayed, so that it will flow very well. I can stop here now. I see now. And come back to the lining. Just hold it like this. So you start again from the waist. And sew into the hip. Sew to the knee. From the knee you go down. So you see what I have now. So you see the way it is, lining to lining, fabric to fabric like this. Then I will go ahead and apply the same thing to this other side. The same lining to lining, fabric to fabric. Then I will show you what's next. So I just finished closing the skirt now. You see how it is? Lining is separate from the this thing. So Let me go to the table now. So before you iron it now, you have to check your measurement. This is how I check measurements of my skirt, gown. Place your tape like this and measure it round. If you do it this way, you will get a perfect measurement. So I have a 35 here, which is the waist. Then how to get the hip measurement? You place your tape this way. The hip is 9 inches somewhere here. So I'll place my tape like so and measure it round. You keep going from that 9 inches. So this is 46 inches for the hip. Now, if this hip is small, now if the hip is big, when you measure like that, let me show you what you can do. Before you iron your skirt, you go ahead and just turn it back inside like this. Bring the skirt out. If the measurement is big, you can just follow the line. Measure how many inches. If it's you have extra 2 inches for the hip, now you divide the 2 inches by 4. You have half inch here, half inch here, half inch here, half inch this way. So you go ahead and mark the half inch. If the waist too, you have like 2 inches extra, you go ahead and mark half inch just like that and sew it to the down. The same thing to the lining. So this one now, because the measurement is okay, I'll go ahead and trim allowance a little. I like to add big allowance whenever I'm cutting. Then after sewing, I can take off some. It's better for me that way than for the allowance not to be enough. So I will trim some out so that when I iron the skirt will smooth. But if you don't like allowance from the cutting, you can reduce your sewing allowance. I apply the same thing to the lining. I also reduce the allowance a little to the both sides of the skirt. Now, I can now iron this skirt before I will turn it out. So you open your allowance like this. If you are using a steaming iron, better, or you sprinkle water. So I'm through with this side. I will apply the same thing to this other side, the lining and the Ankara. Just finish ironing the inside and I turn it. So this is the skirt now. The next thing I will do again is to iron the outside. I'll start from the lining and make sure you check the line. The down part that we folded up, make sure you check it. Then you also iron this lining like this. So I finished ironing the skirt now. The next thing is to pipe the waist. Because it's a low waist, I'll just measure. Let me use the lining to pipe the waist. You can use a bias, or you can also cut the Ankara fabric to pipe the waist. What I'm using here is just almost 2 inches. This is 1/3. You can use 2 inches. If you want it to be very tiny, you can use 1.5. Or you use bias. So this is the skirt waist, and this is the zip hook. I'll sew it from front and turn it to the back. So I'll just use this lining to wrap the waist like this. You see? And just sew it 1/2 inch. So when you're sewing it, make sure you catch it with the lining together. When you get to the side, check the allowance and open it like this. Now when you get to this point, you can cut it and just remain at 1 inch. You use it to wrap the zip. You can now cut this off and also cut this zip off. You turn it inside like so. Just find a way to fold it so that the needle will not climb the zip teeth. So you can bend this at the beginning like this. You can just bend this thing. You can fold it inside like so. And top stitch it. When closing this part, you can close the zip like this and check. Make sure the 2 head zip are equal. Before you fold the turn up inside. Don't allow your needle to climb the zip teeth. See how it is. see this side. Now the next place is to iron this waist. This is the last place to iron now. So I'm through with the skirt now. See how beautiful the skirt is with a full lining. The half-inch lining that will remain at the upper part is to help you balance your lining inside. Thank you so very much for watching. See you in my next video. Please like. I want to see your comments on this video. Thank you.